Rattler fans, welcome back to Talkin Rattlers, where the banter is never out of season. Back and better than ever. That's Chad Peters. I'm still David Tovar. And Chad, it's so good to see you once again.
Back and better than ever.
I have seen you in the last 3 weeks, but they haven't seen us in the last 3 weeks. And Chad, I'll tell you what, it feels like riding a bicycle. Even though you haven't mounted it, you never forget how to do it. And we haven't forgotten Talkin Rattlers. We haven't forgotten about you. We've gotten the emails, tweets, Facebook. We're back. And that's the important thing. But I was trying to figure out, Chad, how do we start? Where do we start? And I figure, well, the last time you saw us, we were on a bus.
We've been a lot of places since that bus.
Yeah, indeed we have. Well, let's start there. We got off the bus. The team stayed on the bus. They went to Wichita Falls. The next day, we followed them for what was just an amazing road trip. And a very memorable one indeed, as the men were in the NCAA Division II tournament, and they went to Wichita Falls, Texas, to take on Midwestern State, the #1 team in the region. And, boy, they played them a great game.
Yeah, almost pulled off the comeback, too. Jumped off to a hot start. We led through about the first 6 minutes of the game. Made it competitive the whole way through. Got back within double digits late in the game, pulled within about 6. Really thought they were going to come through with a comeback. Didn't quite make it all the way through. Midwestern State, meanwhile, rolled all the way to the Final Four.
Yeah.
So the Rattlers really thought that they let one get away, and against a team that had punched its ticket to the Final Four. So St. Mary's maybe not that far off themselves.
Indeed, and I mean, and just to put the bow on the season, I mean, what a great season! Heartland Conference tournament victory. Mo Sandufu made the All-Conference team. The All-Conference tournament team. Kotzer won the MVP of the tournament, and then they punched their ticket to the NCAA 2 tournament, and then played a great game. I mean, you know, some questionable fouls here and there, the foul shot discrepancy, but to only lose by 4, I believe, with that crowd. I mean, it was a ruckus crowd. It really felt like
4,000 fans up there in Wichita.
Yeah, and the DL
Falls, and that was with students being on spring break.
Yeah,
the town really came out and supported that game. It was a great atmosphere for the guys to take part in.
Indeed, and what a great season. Cannot wait. I am so anxious for what's to come next season. Well, after that, we finally got back home to San Antonio. Took a much-needed, 2-day break?
Yeah.
And so we were off to the softball fields here back at St. Mary's. Of course, the softball fields, as we believed, were closed. And last year, we had the trivia question of who hit the last. Well, it wasn't the last hit. Instead, we had more of the softball team at the softball fields. And, boy, they treated us to some great games over the course of the last 2 or 3 weeks.
And if you haven't gotten familiar with the freshman name of Taylor Vidrine, you better do so. She had a 6-home-run week a few weeks back, hit another home run recently this past week, 2 straight Heartland Conference Hitter of the Week performances for her. And the week she had, it was 5 or 6 home runs, 10 RBIs, 10 runs scored, 4 stolen bases, and like a 1,300 slugging percentage. I mean, it was crazy numbers, nothing we've seen in a long time here at St. Mary's. But maybe not the best feat turned in by a Rattler this year. Emily Britton, the sophomore ace, with a perfect game, her second no-hitter of the year a few weeks back. Yeah, that was, I mean, just to witness one of those. And we it didn't hit anybody, much less Emily. It didn't hit any of us taking the score and taking the stats. Well, some of us were talking about it in the press box.
No, we were talking about the no-hitter. Robin Johnson told me, hey, I think she has a no-hitter. Don't mention it on the broadcast. And I was like, oh, I read that in the 3rd inning. And when, and the Rattlers ended up winning that game by run rule in the 5th inning, midway through the 5th. And Tommy Moreno, the PA announcer at softball, Emily Britton threw a no-hitter. And then 2 minutes later, correction, perfect game.
Yeah.
And, I mean, just an amazing feat. Absolutely. I mean, this softball team is rolling.
Yeah, they're doing something special. Yeah. And you see it already. It was, the record they're right now hovering about 24-16, I believe. And you might go, wow, they've lost 16 games, but a big reason why, they've played some of the best teams in the region, some of the best teams in the country.
Yeah.
And they're 3-1, if I'm not mistaken, against Angelo State this year. They were #1 in the country 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So that tells you how good this team is. They had 2 one-run loss games on the road at Abilene Christian, which was number 19 in the country at the time. Came back here, beat them both games at home. So, I mean, the Rattlers are really poised potentially for a nice regional run based solely not only on the talent they have, but on the type of competition they've faced throughout the year.
And they really picked it up in Heartland Conference play as well. And you talk about the 16 losses they have, but similar to the women's basketball team, they've really done their damage and really have hit their stride during conference play. So, as you were saying, Chad, I mean, they're really poised for some big things upcoming.
Yeah, and poised for big things upcoming. The guys right here that we're here at Wolf Stadium about to watch, the baseball team. David?
#1 in the country. And a little tie into the #1 team now in the nation, Kentucky. Their hats say no one greater. Well, right now there is no one better than the St. Mary's Rattlers baseball team.
Yeah, and it starts with the pitching staff. No one better in the nation than ace Carl O'Neill. There's no closer better in the country than Jonathan Perez. We haven't looked at this week's stats, but Perez led the country in saves as of last week. I believe he's at 12 right now for the year. Carl O'Neill rocking a .47 ERA, and every time we post that on Facebook, we make sure to say it's not a typo.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, it's not. A .47, and that's through 9 starts. He's 9-0. 5 of those games have been shutouts. We will see him again Friday over at SAISD Sports Complex when the Rattlers host Texas Permian Basin. He'll be going for shutout number 6. Had 9 strikeouts this past week, the pitcher of the week for the 3rd time in the conference. And Esteban Regosa getting hot at the plate, the shortstop senior from Burbank High School, the hitter of the week this week in the Heartland Conference. Had a huge week last week and just joins in the footsteps of guys like Billy Richard and MP Kokonos, who leads the whole conference in RBIs.
And that is the 8th award racked up collectively by the team.
Yeah.
That's the pitchers of the week, hitters of the week, and just the baseball team racking up, and their litany of awards continues. I mean, they're number 1 in the nation, 8 of those awards, as Robin Johnson would say. Well, welcome to reaping awards in Rattler men's baseball. And most of their damage should be done. She's giggling in the background. Most of the damage is yet to be done. Now, I was in here, and our PA announcer, Ken Witt, walked in and said, Dave, even with the Rattlers playing this well, St. Edwards is only 3 games behind.
Yeah.
I guess we'll have to get him when they get here in about 2 weeks. So that should make an interesting series looking forward.
Yeah, big Battle of the Saints matchup when that comes around the corner. And what I like about the Rattlers right now, though, is that we're number 1 in the collegiate baseball newspaper poll. We were number 2, a point out of first place in last week's NCWBA rankings, and we've moved up to number 3 in the D2Baseball.com rankings. So what it shows you is, we're in the top 3 basically in everyone's opinion. And that says a lot about where this team
number
is.
1, yeah. And we talked about it a lot last year. I mean, that team had aspirations. I mean, it was the decade celebration of the 2001 team.
Yep.
But how high were they in the national ranking?
We rose to number 3 last year.
As high as number 3.
And we were at our highest entering the regional tournament. This year, obviously, number 1. What's funny, me and Robin were crunching numbers in the office the other day. She asked, well, how does this year's start compare with last year? We're 34 games into the season. 34 games into the season last year, we had, I believe, what was it, 7 losses? This year, we're at 6. So we're doing a little bit better. Last year we rolled on through like a 17-game winning streak.
Now we're getting greedy.
Regional tournament.
We're talking about 7 losses to 6 losses. And but I mean, impressive, mind-blowing numbers. Absolutely.
And last year St. Mary set the school's all-time single-season winning percentage record. It was hovering around 82.5%. This year they're 82.3. So you could conceivably see the winning percentage record set last year break this year.
Yeah, and of course, you talked about the pitching. I'll tell you a little bit about the hitting. Billy Richard, MP, Esteban, and of course the Rattler Clipper, Tyler Meagle. I mean, how will you beat this team through their bats or against their pitching? They look dominant right now.
Yeah, and what's amazing about the lineup is, Tyler will probably be the first to tell you he hasn't hit as well as he has last year. Yeah, we were looking at where he ranks in the conference. He leads the conference in walks. Yeah. He's, I believe, 2nd in runs scored, and he's had like 10 of his 24 hits have gone for doubles. Yeah. So he's still finding ways to bring production into this lineup, and you pair that with MP Kokonos, Billy Richard, as you said, Regosa, the Heartland Conference hitter of the week, loaded all the way through, especially when you got those arms backing them up defensively. Your
number 1 ranked St. Mary's Rattlers will be on Rattlers Ustream Live upcoming in about 30 minutes, 5 o'clock. Keep it locked right here. We're going to take a little break. Talkin Rattlers is back. Stay with us. More upcoming on Rattlers Ustream Live. Welcome back, Rattler fans. Talkin Rattlers is back, better than ever, where the banter is never out of season. Right now, the banter is all about the number one team in the country, our Rattler baseball team. And, well, we're here at Nelson Wolf.
Yep.
Usually it's VJ Keefe Memorial Stadium, but that's been the story all year long here at Wolf. Beautiful facility. But I think, Chad, this is one of our final games at Wolf. I think we have one more in April.
Yeah, and the number one team in the country, potentially a team without a home at this point. St. Mary's will be playing this weekend at the SAISD Sports Complex, and later the season coming back over here at Wolf. We've also been at UTSA this season.
Yeah.
Which poses the interesting question when regionals comes around. Will we be able to host regionals if we earn the right to host it as the top team in the region? Interesting question we'll be pondering here in future Talking Rattlers episodes. Don't really know the answer yet, but it's an interesting question if the number one team in the country could have to go on the road because of the renovations being made. Now, a year or 2 years down the road, we're going to have the best facility in the country.
Yeah.
You know, but currently these guys, and the guys are 17-1 at home this year, they could miss out on the opportunity to play at home. At the same time, the reverse side of that is it could grizzle them a little bit. You know, it could make them tougher going into the national tournament if they advance out of the region. So, interesting thing to look at moving on.
Think of what a feat it would be if you do go on the road as the number one and win. I mean, that's an extra feather to the ball cap.
Oh, yeah. And these guys have had plenty of feathers put in their ball caps already this year.
I had the mental image of feathers and ball caps, so I'm getting a little bit. But talking about new homes and new homes, I couldn't leave this out. Tim Tebow and the Jets. My man, Tim Tebow. You're a fan of Tebow?
I like him.
You're cool with him?
Tebow occasionally.
Are you a fan of him in New York, and how does this fit?
I think it's an awkward fit.
Yeah. And this is a Mark Sanchez fan that I am as well. I feel bad for Marky, but I think Tebow's coming.
Well, I think you got two scenarios for Tebow.
Okay.
He should have gone to a team where he clearly is the starter. I mean, he did lead a team to the playoffs last year, unconventionally, but he took them, to the playoffs. Something to be said for that. Go to a team like Jacksonville or someone without a starting quarterback in place, or go to a team where the starting quarterback is so entrenched that he can come in as the backup, maybe play periodically, have a few wildcat formations, if you will, and not ruffle any feathers. You go to Green Bay, where, I was going to say Denver, follow Peyton Manning to Denver. He was already there. He got kicked out. Yeah. Or New England with the Tom Brady, some place like that. Now, of course, you might argue with those teams, if you have a quarterback that good, you don't want to take them out ever.
That's true.
But I just think in New York, you're going to have a scenario where they're saying they want to get him 20 snaps per game, but potentially 15 to 20. What happens if he comes in and those 15 to 20 and the offense is outscoring, the Mark Sanchez offense? I just think it's going to be kind of a back and forth issue where it's probably going to take 2 weeks to hear Tebow's name chanted in the stadium, and Sanchez could just become derailed at that point.
Think about the cool photo op you might catch outside of a New York establishment. Eli, Tebow, and Jeremy Lin. I mean, that might be the best reason Tim Tebow went to New York. All right, well, moving on to new homes, Peyton Manning. I don't understand why he picked Denver. I don't see it.
Yeah, it surprised me outdoors. I thought for sure he'd want to go somewhere indoors where he could run that track offense.
Arizona.
And then also just, the talent they have. They got some good players, Decker, Willis McGahee, but no marquee guys, really.
Yeah.
And I was surprised maybe he passed on the opportunity to go just somewhere where, more talent. Even San Francisco.
San Francisco
you
would
got
have been
Frank Gore. You got the defense that they have.
Vernon Davis.
Vernon Davis. They brought in Randy Moss, whatever that means at this point in time. But a little shocked he went to Denver. I'm really curious to see how this plays out. I tend to side almost that I think Denver will most like this move right now. I don't know that they'll ever be as euphoric as they are right now for having Peyton Manning, and the reason being the Colts let him go for a reason. He might be the best quarterback of all time. He's a Hall of Famer, Super Bowl winner, all of these things, yet they let him walk out the door. And it's not just because they can get Andrew Luck or Robert Griffin III. It's because they have doubts that he's ever going to be what he was.
Yeah.
And their doctors, their staff are the one that's been there in the locker room looking at him on a day-in, day-out basis, seeing him throw. I would be shocked if he's the MVP player he was yet before.
All right, now bringing it a little closer to home, our Cowboys. You impressed with their signings?
Yeah, I think they brought in some good guys. I heard Jerry Jones mention on the radio, I think today or yesterday, about Brandon Carr, the big corner they brought in that basically said they overpaid. They had to pay retail value for him, which is basically telling you they didn't draft him, so they're having to go out and pay the overpriced mark for someone else's goods. But I think the team got better. I'm a little concerned that they let LeRon Robinson go. Now, they couldn't match the $35 million he got from Jacksonville, but a little concerned what that's going to do with the passing game. I thought Romo and him had a huge rapport. But by and large, I think they got better where they needed to.
They got some guards as well.
Now they got to just make it actually happen on the field.
And same with the Cowboys, and with the whole league-wide, the Nike became the NFL outfitter today. Mm-hmm. One excited broadcaster here, another excited broadcaster there. And we'll talk about we were having actually an interesting chit-chat. What do you think about the uniforms?
Yeah, I like them. I was following the Twitter feed today as they unveiled those uniforms. Seattle's uniform, if you haven't seen it, you got to check it out. I mean, they have carbon fiber numbers. I think a carbon fiber stripe down the middle of their helmet. You know, they almost went Oregon Duck a little bit, you know, the way Nike does those uniforms. Untraditional, unconventional, but kind of cool at the same time.
Oh, yeah.
I also like some of the little touches they've put on the jersey. The pant of Seattle has 12th man. They have like an emblem for that, which is their fan base is called the 12th man. And then I saw the Panthers jersey on the back inside collar. They have the phrase "keep pounding," which is the kind of the inspirational phrase uttered by Sam Mills, their Hall of Fame linebacker who died of cancer tragically a few years back. That was a motivational halftime speech he gave. So I think it's kind of cool that Nike's putting some finishing touches on the uniforms that are beyond just the glitz and glamour that you'll see on television.
Yeah, and I was telling you, Chet, that I hope in 5 years that Nike and the NFL moves forward somewhat like what they do in those special games. You've seen Boise State's uniform, Oregon, of course, famous for like 19 uniforms they tried out there, and they all look great and stylish. Never like Maryland and the Under Armour uniforms. I don't know if we can see that in HD. I don't know how many eyes we're talking about seeing that. Now, what else we have on our little list here? Oh, the NCAA final was
last night.
Yesterday. Kentucky and Kansas.
Did you catch it?
I did catch. I caught a little bit of it. I was too intrigued, and I have to say this. I was too intrigued with Brock Lesnar's return, former WWE star. Yeah, that's my nerd side. Former WWE star turned UFC champion. So he's legit. You don't want to meet him outside of a establishment. He came back excited. Yahoo went nuts. Twitter went nuts. I think he actually, out of the 10 trending topics, he had 8 of them.
Nice.
So he was huge. But I did catch some of the NCAA. Anthony Davis, also a trending topic.
Yeah.
Skip Bayless.
Weird performance from Davis. Did you see the stat line?
Yeah, 1 of 10 from the field. But 16 boards, 5 assists, and like 6 blocks.
Yeah,
I believe so. And Skip Bayless, one of my heroes. Tim Duncan, comparing him to Tim Duncan. Tim Duncan-esque. Now that is some heavy praise, especially from guys like us who've seen him his whole career.
And Bayless has become a big Spurs homer for ESPN over the years. Really hypes the Spurs up. He can't do much better than Duncan if he turns into that.
Yeah.
I like the way he impacts the game on all levels, and I think you know you're watching a Rattlers game. What Coach Z wants those guys to be, not just because Davis is going to be the number 1 pick on all these things, but a guy who can impact the game beyond just scoring.
Yeah,
it's so instrumental. You know, it's so hard for basketball players because you want the glory a lot of times. I mean, you want to put the ball in the hole and get points, but there's a lot more to it to win games.
Yeah, it's very rare when you see a 1 in 10 guy win the MOP.
Yeah,
and the first freshman since Melo to do it. And it reminds me of Kobe Bryant, who started the game against the Hornets. I believe it was Saturday night, 0 for 17. He finishes 3 for 21, but he hits the game winner. So, I mean, you're putting him things that guys like Kobe Bryant do. I mean, as a young kid, I think he's 19.
Yeah.
Anthony Davis. I mean, that's very impressive.
Heard the craziest thing. I haven't really followed Kentucky basketball recently, but they said 2 years ago he was a 6'2" guard.
Mm-hmm. And he played point guard.
Whatever he is, 6'11" or however tall he is. That's amazing, the kind of growth spurts people can have.
Yeah.
Still waiting for mine.
And I've given up on mine. So, so that's the story on that one. Anything else? I mean, it's been 3 weeks, Chad, and I've seen you, but not enough to talk sports and not enough to talk Rattlers. But anything else from the world of sports that has interested you?
Not too much. Just where we ran into each other over the weekend.
That's right, Baby Bake. Baby Bake, I look forward to it, an oyster bake, for one reason and one solitary reason only.
Me too, but a different reason, I believe.
Okay, well, I'm gonna give you mine. Chicken on a stick. It's 6 coupons of greatness. I had, I think, 3 chickens on a stick. I was waiting for steak on a stick, but I think that's only during oyster bake.
Yeah.
I know it's oyster bake. I'm not a fan of seafood. I'm actually allergic to it, so don't feed me seafood. But the chicken on a stick, to die for. Loved it. Loved every minute of the chicken stick. I'm tasting it right now.
Fried oysters. That was 10 coupons.
I'm allergic to that.
Got 2 orders of those. Very good. I didn't see any Tabasco sauce available this year. Usually, pour a little Tabasco on there. Heavenly.
You like Tabasco?
Oh, yeah. Big Tabasco fan.
Did not know that.
Breakfast on the eggs.
Oh.
Eggs and bacon. Some Tabasco on there.
That's a way to kickstart your morning.
Yeah, it's great.
I kickstart my morning like Rocky, crunch the eggs, swallow it. I cook them first. But similar to, I got a part of it, though. Well, nonetheless, Rattler fans, Talkin Rattlers, of course, is back on your computer screens. And remember, like us on Facebook, facebook.com/St. Mary's Rattlers. You can follow us on Twitter. We're very active on Twitter, at St. Mary's Rattlers. And, of course, For all the latest news, score, stats, schedules, decorative wallpaper, Tony Morano photos, the iPhone app, and of course, your favorite show where the banter's never out of season, visit RattlerAthletics.com. Well, we invite you to stick around, Rattler fans. Rattlers Ustream Live will have the #1 team in the country, St. Mary's Rattlers Baseball, at 5 p.m., which is about maybe 15 minutes from now. Chad Peters, David Tofar, we thank you for welcoming us back. Talkin Rattlers, where the banter is never out of season.